All right, so let's clean up this code a little bit. Notice that we have a user service and then a finder right here, which has a then. See this then over here? And then inside of one of the functions, we again have a nested user service .create user. See that? And the reason they're nested is that we need to synchronize them, right? We need to make sure that we do one and then the other, correct? And this is the only way to synchronize them, right? First do one, and then when we get a response back from the server, then invoke the second one, correct? Now imagine that we had yet another. We needed to do one more communication back to the server before we realize what we need to do, right? If these things need to execute in a sequence, right? We would have yet another nesting here. You see that? Okay, and that's the only way that we can make sure that things happen in synchronicity. Correct? Otherwise, since these are all asynchronous calls, right? There's no guarantee that one is actually going to happen after the other, right? We could have done something like this, right? We could have tried to do something like this. This, right? Would have to happen afterwards, correct? So what we need to be able to do, right, is the only way to synchronize them is to embed them one inside the other. Okay. So what we can do, right, is instead of nesting them like this, notice that the code becomes hard to read. Right, especially if you have these nesting within nesting within nesting within nesting, right? So what the promise API allows you to do is the following, right? This create user would return what? Returns a promise, correct? So you could do the following. You could say return. What does this return? The promise, right? And so this would be return of what? The return of this entire then. You see that? Right? So that means that this then, right, could be moved out here. You see that? Okay? This is returning the promise, and I'm catching it right here. Right? Let's see if I broke something. Let's go back. Let's restart the server. Okay, and I'm going to register ho, right? And it still works the same way. Okay, it works the same way. Now, writing it like this is a little bit easier to read, especially if you have lots of these things that need to happen, right, in synchronicity, right? This, and then this, and then this, then. That's where the then comes from, right? It allows you to write something that otherwise be, very nested, right? It allows you to write something that is by definition asynchronous, that happens in no predictable order, right? It allows you to write it as if they were one after another, right? In a sequence. See that? Right? It allows you to write several asynchronous calls that to make them look as if they were synchronous, right? In a syntax that is much easier to read, right? This will become much more apparent and useful when we start talking to the database, and we need to go fetch something from here, fetch something from there, and that is this parent has relationship with children, and those children have relationship with the and we have to do all these queries, and they need to be synchronized, right? So we could have 3 or 4 levels of nesting, right? And so this will come very handy. This syntax a little later. Make sense? All right.